Stuart, 40 caps for Scotland. Italia 90. 2 Euro finals. And it was a remarkable start to your international career, and it involved your father, Andy. Tell me about it.
Yeah, back in the day, I think I was only 20-year-old, 1984, I was at Bradford. And unbeknown to me, my dad had wrote a letter to Jock Stein. My dad had gone to school with him at Burnbank. I think Jock was in a year above him at school. And my dad had wrote a letter to him to let him know that, you know, there's this little boy who born in Leeds, playing for Bradford in Division 3, that would qualify to play for Scotland and would love to play for Scotland. That unbeknown to myself. Anyway, during the season, in fact, I remember I was down in Bradford, I was in a big bath on my own, and the secretary come down, he said to me, she says, "Oh, this is good news, you've been picked for Scotland under 21s. And I thought, wow, I couldn't believe it, not heard anything about it. And then 2 minutes later, he come back down and says, even better news, you've been picked for England under 21s. And I thought, well, that wasn't better news for me, because in my heart, I'd been to Wembley, I was there when John Robertson scored the penalty in 81, 1-1-0, decked in tartans, you know, only a kid. So I was always Scottish. But then Bradford City manager, Trevor Cherry, who played for England, came down and said to me, "Oh, says, you're English, you want to be playing for England." Terry Yorrith, who played for Wales, said the same. Club secretary and the chairman. And it only took me a couple of weeks later to realise if I'd been a England under 21 player as opposed to a Scotland under 21 player, when they come to sell me, the club would have got more money. So obviously they're pushing me towards England. But I think, to be fair, one of them said at the time, there was only one Anglo, it was Brian McClare, there was only one Anglo-Scot at the time in the Scotland setup. And he's, you know, it was only Brian McClare who was playing at Man United. Anyway, there was no mobile phones, couldn't get hold of my dad, everyone's ringing, they needed to get the press needed to do, the managers. So Jock Stein was the manager of the national team, Bobby Robertson was the manager of England. Under 21s manager at the time was Dave Sexton, and it was Sir Alex Ferguson who would pick this squad for the under 21s of Scotland. And anyway, I decided under a lot of pressure to pick England. I went home that night, little council house with my mum, phone goes, somebody I thought pretending to be Jock Stein, and my pal John Hendry, who's I played with Bradford, Scottish lad, I thought it was him. And he comes on, "Oh, Mr. Stein here." I'm going, "Yeah, all right, Jock. How's it hanging? How are you doing, big man?" And then he goes on, and I thought, gosh, John's putting a good voice on it. He sounds quite elderly, or, you know, at least older than a 20-year-old. And then next minute it dawned on me, and he just says, "No, I got a letter from your dad," and tears started rolling down my face. I couldn't believe it. He was just ringing to say, he said, "I know you've had a really difficult decision, but I just want to wish you all the best for your future, and good luck in your career." I mean, who would do that? Imagine Fergie ringing me up and saying that. So, you know, I came off the phone, that was it. I said to my mum, my mum was upset, she saw me crying, she said, "What's wrong?" I said, "That was Jock Stein." She's like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's okay, Mum, I'm going in to talk tomorrow and you know, tell the club I've changed my mind." So on the way in, I picked the papers up, McCall rejects Jocks, McCall a true Yorkshireman and all this. And I went in, I said to the club, "I need to change my mind." She said, "Oh, you can't now, you've made your decision." So I went away with England. I think most people have heard the story. I went away with England 21s to Turkey, and they tried to get me on with 5 minutes to go, and I, you know, bust my tie ups, I lose my shin pads, I stay out the way, and I'm actually on the touchline. Dave Sexton's got his arm around me as I'm just about to go on the pitch, and the referee blows his whistle for full time, and it was the biggest relief. And talk about sliding doors moments, because I might never have gone on to play for England. It was really, in my eyes, it was an insurance policy. If England get me on in that game, because it's a proper game, a competitive game, then I can no longer play for Scotland. So, you know, like I say, thankfully, and the rest is history. It took me a few years, but I went back. I told the club straight away, that's it. I've enjoyed my time with England, but I'm Scottish at heart, and, you know, that's who I would like to play for. But I understand I'll probably never get the opportunity anymore.
It's quite amazing, Stuart, that somebody of the stature of Jock Stein phoning your home.
Incredible.
I mean, as we've already been discussing, the people of proper football stature that have been involved in your career is quite astonishing.
Yeah, it was. And I remember telling my dad, but listen, my dad was, I didn't know he'd sent this letter, and he totally understood, but he didn't put any break. But like I say, in them days with no mobile phones, I couldn't speak to my parents. There was so much pressure on me to pick England. But even though my heart was saying no, But anyway, unfortunately, then a few years down the line, I got a call up for Scotland over 21s Scotland under 21s as an overage player. Me and Big Paul Hegarty. And it was Craig Brown was a manager, funny enough, and we were playing England at Forest, and Gazza was playing. I think he came off after 80 minutes injured. The beat us 1-0, but that was at least I then got my foot back on the ladder. It took a few years, but I was then back in contention.
You had a brilliant Scotland career, so many magnificent memories, and it ultimately comes to an end when you're not included in the squad for France '98. Craig Brown makes a big decision. Of course, Alan McCoist also didn't make the squad. You wouldn't. Did you see that coming? Did you expect to be in that squad, or did you realistically you think?
No, if I'm honest, listen. I was very fortunate, and I'm proud of. I was the only British player, Scottish player, obviously, but British player as well, to play in every minute of the World Cup '90, Euro '92, and Euro '96. I played all 9 games, and that. I didn't play quite well in them, but at least I played in them, so it gives me a bit of achievement. It was a quiz question about 15 years ago, and I think I said Stuart Pearce, and I got it wrong. It was me, but which British player played them all? But anyway, so but I'll be honest, I'd done my knee. I'd been out for 11 months, and when I came back, I played about 30 games for Rangers, but I wasn't back at the level. I did okay. I wasn't back at the level, and I bumped into Craig at a sportsman's dinner actually, and he sort of gave me an insight with a month to go that I might not be playing. I'd played 45 minutes at Ibrox in a international game, a friendly, but I didn't know if I'd done enough. But anyway, he did ring me. He said he'd ring me, and before the squad was announced, he rung me. And I was really disappointed naturally because I thought I was going to be in it, but I got it. The Coisty one was more difficult, not for me, but certainly for him because he finished the season superbly. I think the last 2 months for Rangers, he bagged lots of goals. He finished really strongly, and you'd always, if you bring in Coisty off the bench in any game, he's always likely to nick a goal. So, but yeah, it was a disappointing end, unfortunately. But I understood it.
He obviously. Craig gave you so many wonderful Scotland moments, games he picked, and sadly another fantastic gentleman football person that we've lost. Where does Craig rate in terms of your football career? How do you regard him as an influence? And
as I say, I first come across Craig I was an overage player in under 21s. I knew more as assistant Tommy Craig. I knew him from Newcastle, being a player, superb left foot, but I didn't know much of Craig. And just then meeting him and the coaching, him and Tommy, made a good impression on me. And then I went away with I think played in Italy. I played 221 games overage player. Excuse me. And he was always, Craig was always thorough. He always knew what he wanted, and he was passionate about Scotland. And I enjoyed working with him. Sorry.
You could never have imagined, of course, in '98 that 12 years after that, Stuart, you're replacing Craig as Motherwell manager. Did he speak to you about that, or did you speak to him about
that? No, I think I got a call from Archie. It was strange actually, because I'd managed Bradford. I'd left Sheffield United. I'd been assistant manager at Neil in the Premier League, and if we'd have stayed up, I would have maybe stayed with Neil in the Premier. Although Neil says he was always grooming me to take over from him. But I got a phone call from the chairman of Bradford City, who were in the bottom division, saying, "Am I looking at going to management yet? We'd love you to give you your first opportunity." And it was something in my heart I was always wanting to do. Anyway, at the end of the season, we got beat at home to Wigan, and we got relegated, Sheffield United, from the Premier League to the Championship. And I decided to take the Bradford offer up. And then so I was there for 2.5 seasons. 2.5 seasons. But it was a club that meant so much to me. And I'd gone from working in the Premier League to working in the basement league, and I didn't know I had 7 players that took up half the budget. And that we did okay, but not well enough. And I resigned. And it took its toll on me because they were my club and I wanted to do better. So I went out of the game for about, I don't know, 8-10 months and not really actively looking to get back in. I was taking a few games in. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Maybe it'd be youth football, academy football, but I wasn't really. And I was at a game and Stan Turnant, the old Burnley manager, who was my assistant at he was assistant manager when I played at Bradford, asked me what was up to, and I'm looking to get back in. And he says, "Oh, you're too young. You've too much to offer. Get yourself back in." I said, "Have you got an agent?" I says, "No." And he gave me 2 boys' names. He says, "They're Scottish boys." He said, "But they do some work in England and that." He says, "Would you want me to pass your number on?" I went, "Yeah, but I wasn't actively looking." Anyway, I got a call from Graham and spoke to him. And he says, would you come up to Scotland and manage? I said, yeah, I'd probably go anywhere. To be honest, not anywhere, not abroad, but yeah, I'd never really thought about going back into it. Anyway, it was Motherwell, so we arranged a meeting. I came up on. I remember I came up on the 16th of December, and I met Leanne Dempster and Derek McGregor in Glasgow, and yeah. And then went okay, chat, that was fine. I never heard anything for 10 days. Met John Boyle as well, but just briefly. I'd not heard anything for 10 days. So when and the 26th Boxing Day, Rangers were actually playing at Motherwell, and I'm watching on the telly. And I would always want Rangers to win, but more so because Motherwell had not even come back to me inside 10 days. I'm thinking, cheers, So I'm watching the game, Rangers 1-2-1. Anyway, I got a phone call the next day. Would I come up? And would I do a Zoom call or something like that? I said, well, no, yeah, I've had an interview. I'll come up and meet you again. But the Zoom thing for me, I mean, I probably just didn't know how to do Zoom. I think that was probably the case or whatever. But would I do a conference call, not a Zoom call, a conference call at that time? I said, well, listen, I'm happy to come up. In fact, the only reason I went up to the first interview on the 16th because I had to take some Christmas presents up to Scotland. I remember that now. I thought, yeah. He says to me, do you want to go for an interview with Motherwell? I said, well, I'm bringing some Christmas presents up, so it ties in. And hence, that's how I got the interview. Anyway, I get a phone call 27th. I said, listen, the conference call, I'll come and meet you again if you want to meet me again. And I went up on the 29th, and it was the night Motherwell played at Celtic Park. And they offered me the job. I just went in, says, listen, we've been looking at other people, but we realised after the first meeting, you're the man for us, we've done a little bit of ball work, bang. And I went to the game that night at Celtic Park, and Motherwell 1-0 down after 3 minutes. I thought, I'm not sure I've done the right thing here, because I thought it was better. And they actually got beat 1-0. And I went in the dressing room afterwards, introduced myself, and then we kicked on from there. And but yeah, I think I spoke to Archie on the way up. I didn't speak to Craig. I spoke to Archie, and he said to me what a good club it was, etc., etc. And it was a perfect club for me, because I went in. A club's only for me, a football club is only as good as the senior professionals that's there. The people that lead and set the standards. And there was Stephen Craigan, Keith Lasley, Stephen Hamill, Big John Sutton, and mixed in with some good young players. Jamie Murphy, Hutchinson, Randolph, Haitley, and they certainly left me a good basis to work from. And I remember John Boyle saying to me, there was only 2 things I wanted me to carry out. We had to sell a player each year, and that's finishing the top 6, and that was my remit. So I was in the door in 2 days, and we sold Mark Reynolds to Sheffield Wednesday. So I thought, right, I've ticked that box.
For good dough as well, wasn't it?
A decent dough.
Was it 7 figures or just under?
I don't think it was as much as that, but it was good money, yeah. So I thought, right, I've done that. Now just to finish in the top 6. And I think we were 5th when I went in, or 6th, and we managed to finish 6th. So, it was a good start, but I had a good core and a good group, so I was fortunate in that regard. I
mean, my word, what followed was astonishing, Stuart. I mean, enough, I would think, to make you one of the club's best ever managers. I mean, I think the first full season you get a 3rd, and then you get 2 second place finishes, which is outstanding success for Motherwell.
Yeah,
and a Champions League qualification as well.
Yeah,
involved in the competition.
Yeah, there were some special moments there. I mean, like the first season,
Scottish Cup final,
finished 6th, Scottish Cup final, first time I think in 20 years. Beat St Johnstone in the semis 3-0. Derek McGuinness's St Johnstone 3-0. And obviously got beat by Celtic in the final. But yeah, that gave us a platform again to build. Finished, we used to call it best of the rest because it was always going to be Rangers Celtic or Celtic Rangers and whatever. So finished best of the rest that season, third, and went into the Champions League, and then finished, as you say, second and second. So yeah, listen, I think so many outstanding memories and a really good club. People behind the scenes, people work there. Only a small community club, but good staff, good players.
You know how cynical people in Scottish football can be, Stuart. And of course, naturally enough, they'll be, but Rangers weren't in the top flight. I don't care about that, Stuart. I still think that's a remarkable success for Motherwell.
Well, again, it's I mean, if Rangers had been there, we would have probably, would have been third and third, no doubt. But for a club like Motherwell to finish best of the rest for 3 years when you've got Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen, Dundee United, I think we weren't a top six budget. I think we were about eighth budget as we went along. But we managed to bring in, allied to the good people we had there and the good group, people like Michael Higdon. Now, I get Michael Higdon from St Mirren. And but people were leaving us. John Sutton left us to go and join Hearts, only because he was getting double his money. And you couldn't hold him back. I remember even Tim Clancy coming. We got him from Kilmarnock and he went and joined Hibs for 400 quid more, and he couldn't say it to him. He didn't want to stay at Motherwell, and we had a lot of play, but like Mark Reynolds was going to come back from Sheffield Wednesday at Motherwell, and Aberdeen jumped in. So we were always fighting against. We lost players to Hibs, to Hearts, to Aberdeen. I think we lost somebody to Dundee United as well. I can't remember who, but we were losing. Gavin Gunning then came and he went to Dundee United. So we were losing players to these sides and still having to. But the Michael Higdon one gave me a lot of satisfaction, as with Nicky Law, because Michael Higdon that season finished with 30 goals, I think, and he was a Golden Boot winner in Scotland.
PFA Player of the Year.
PFA Player of the Year, and that was the first time I think in 30 years that anyone outside Rangers and Celtic had won it. And he started off being a bit of a boo boy target in his first week or two, and for him to go on and I mean, I think it was Hooper and Samaras and people like that who were up against Commons, and he got 30 goals that season. And I've seen Big Higgy a couple of times since. He went abroad and he got his move back to Sheffield United. But and then to see young lads come through like Sean Hutchinson and Jamie Murphy. He went down to Sheffield United in the end, and then Brighton and that. So, but we had a good group, and it was a real strong bond. That,
I mean, to finish second once was astounding, but to then repeat it the following season, an even greater achievement, possibly. Sure.
Yeah.
Think for that group of boys and yourself.
It was probably a great achievement because you weren't as good a side. We'd lost Higgy and we'd lost Lawsey, and we brought people in, probably not as, in fact Big Sutty came back, I think, but we'd also brought a Yarmer in the time, and he'd left, so we were still changing side. But the season, the second season, we finished second. I don't think we were as good a footballing team, but I think we actually managed more points. I think each season we accumulated more points each time. So yeah, it was decent.
I thought that was, another particularly impressive aspect of it for yourself. And of course, Kenny Black was your assistant as well, Stuart. Was all along the player development, you were improving guys, either who you'd inherited or who you were bringing in.
Yeah.
Young players, etc. You were making them better. That other teams were coming in for them, while all along still getting results and achievements. Yeah,
I think we look at that. And listen, the club were great. I mean, I remember Sean Hutchinson, his contract was going to be up at the end of the season, and we could have got 250 grand from an English team. And I spoke to Derek and Liam, and I said, well, what's the price difference in finishing sixth and finishing third? And it was 78 grand. So if you finished whatever the money was, but it was 78 grand difference. So if you finished sixth, if you finished fifth, you got 78 grand more than you did when you finished sixth. And likewise, I said, so basically, if we can finish 3 places higher and keep Hutchie, and he goes in a free at the end of the season, are you happy for that? Now, most clubs would have wanted the money in. It was only 250 grand, but it was money that... And they said, no, fine. Jamie Murphy could have gone earlier, but he stayed on. I think we ended up getting 50 odd grand for him in January, halfway through the window before his contract. But it was right for Jamie to move on and go and play in England. But yeah, a lot of players come in. I met Nicky Law in America because I had Nicky at Bradford, and I says to him, and it's a lot like me saying this, but when he was a kid, he was a bit of a mummy's boy, and he was always wanting to be near Same mum, a family kid who wanted him near home. Could never see him moving anywhere. I mean, he's living in America now, so it just shows you. But I met him in America on holiday. I says, you come to Motherwell, and I could see you. I says, but if you come to Motherwell, you'll either go back and play an English Championship, or you'll go to Rangers or Celtic. You know, I had not that much belief in him, and he came back, and obviously 2 years later, he ended up going to Rangers. But yeah, there was a lot of players that went on to do better things, and then there were a lot of players who were sort of coming to the end of their career, like say Craigs and Lars and Hammy, who were great servants. Brought Faddy back, and he had a little flourish for a wee while. So yeah, we had a mixture of old experience, young flair, bit of grit, bit of everything really.
All the managers and coaches I've spoken to in one-on-one, Stuart, they tell me about all the different characteristics you need as a person to deal with all manner of situations. Michael Higdon, I think you know where this is going, so he finishes the season in a cell. Can you remember the night you get the phone call to say, gaffer?
No, I think...
Did he phone you, or was it
No,
someone else?
I think Flo waited until the morning, until I got in. I left him. I left him. I said, lads, go in, because we were all there at the awards ceremony, and go and enjoy your night. And I get in at morning, and Flo comes in and says, I've got some bad news. I thought, oh no. And yeah, obviously that
Alan Burrows, who was general manager, of course.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Alan Burrows was not at Aberdeen, but no. Listen, it was listen, if you're not going to celebrate when you've just won the Bumming Player of the Year, you never. But unfortunately, got into a bit of an altercation. But hey, listen, it's one of them things, isn't it? But he was great character, really good character, and yeah. But listen, I used to deal with it in the fact that if the lads wanted to see me about anything not so great, I would send them to Kenny. And if they wanted to come and say the good things, they could come and see me. It was simple. But Kenny was brilliant. He was, as I said, even when I went to Bradford, he was my best signing. You know, I didn't know Kenny. I played with him in one game, Rangers Legends, you know, Masters, one of these Masters games at Newcastle. So I didn't really know him at all. And when I took over at Motherwell, I'd had 2 games. We'd drawn at Hamilton, and we got beat up at Dundee United. And wee Youngie was assisting me, who'd been at the academy. He was a great wee guy as well, good football guy. And somebody said to me, I think Coisty actually, he says, oh, you need somebody. He says, and I was getting offers from other Scottish lads that I didn't know, coaches. And he says, and then somebody else come on to me, it might have been Craig Levine, because he'd worked with Kenny, you know, at Leicester. And I met Kenny at Weatherby Services near me in Harrogate, and we talked football for 2 hours. And I said, listen, why don't you come up to the end of the season, this was in January, and see how it goes. And if you want to, you know, we'll just see how we work together. And we just hit it off like that from football man, you know, liked by the players, good coach, and yeah, things just went really good.
You left Motherwell, and I think within about 6 months, you're Rangers manager, Stuart. Was that? I mean,
yeah,
March 2015.
Yeah.
Now, Rangers' idol as a player. Can you tell me what's it like the moment when you become a Rangers manager?
Well, just to put that. And left, not rumours, but there was only a couple of silly people saying, oh, yeah, he's worked his ticket there, he's left Motherwell. Because I resigned at Motherwell. He's always had his eye on the Rangers job. Now, that couldn't have been further from the truth at all. I was going into I'd had 4 years, I was going into my 4th season. And I said to Kenny, I don't know how long we can keep. You know, the last season, even though we'd finished second with more points, it had been a struggle to, you know, the standard of player. We were losing. We weren't beginning to bring, you know, so many players in. And
your achievements were a rod for your own back in a way, weren't they?
Yeah. And sometimes you think you can, you know, the players have heard the voice too much. I think actually, I should have seen it. It was written in the stars. We played Starnen from Iceland in Europe, and we drew at home with them 2 each. And I brought Josh Law, Nicky Law's brother, up to play for us. He was a right back. And we had that many injuries. I played him as a number 10, and he scored 2 in his first 20 minutes. I'm thinking, gosh, this is all right. Anyway, Keith Lasley gives 2 penalties away as a midfielder, 2 penalties away, and we draw 2 each. My captain and the person that probably did as much for me at Motherwell than anyone did, he was fantastic. And then we go over to Starnen in Iceland, and actually they were a decent side because they went on to beat, I think it was Inter Milan 1-0 in the first leg, but got beat in the second leg. And they beat us 3-2 in extra time. And Laz gave another penalty away. I mean, I've never known a midfielder did 3 penalty aways in 2 games. And that should have been, that basically, he was telling me, listen, Gaffer, your time's up. I'm getting you out of here. And we got beat, so we got knocked out like that. We won the first game, I think it was St Mirren at home. and then we had a bad run. And then we went to Celtic Park, and we drew 1-1, and it's the first time I'd ever got anything there. We beat them at home 3 times, but we never got anything at Celtic Park. We drew 1-1, and then I think we won at Ross County. So we sort of booked the trend a little bit. We'd started poorly, and then we just had another run of poor results. And I think it was after the 12th game, I think we'd won 2, drawn 1 and lost 9. And it was a Friday night, we got beat at St Johnstone. We were 1-0 up, and we got beat 2-1. And on the Sunday, our youth team, in which my boy played in, under 18s, I think it was, at Motherwell, were playing Celtic at Morton in a cup. And I went down and watched it. And Motherwell were terrific. The young lads were brilliant. And Celtic won 2-0. And I remember it for 2 reasons. One, because he had a left back player who was half decent. And he cut in and he shot and he scored with his right foot. And I don't think Kieran Taylor's ever scored with his right foot. And that was saying it. And they had some youth team did Celtic that time. And my Motherwell, I was so proud of them. But then, I don't know where it came from. And I was walking across the pitch to go to my car. And I just felt, do you know what? I don't think I can do any more. I don't think I can get any more about these lads. I think the lads need a change for their sakes. And I just thought it was time to bring a new voice in for the club. And I remember, I think I might have been on the pitch when I rung Flo. Even before I spoke to my missus, even before I spoke to Kenny. And Flo says, no, don't be so stupid. We'll turn it round. We'll get players in or whatever. And he just, no. He says, you need to stay in that. He says, go think of it. I says, Flo, I think I've made my mind up. And I think I had. Anyway, on the journey from Morton to back to where I was staying, I rung Mrs. and told her, and she says, listen, what's ever? And I rung Kenny, and Kenny was, are you sure? And I says, yeah, I think it's time. You know, we'd had such a great time. And we started the season really poorly, and I think it was time for me to stand down and let somebody else come in and have a go. And I remember on the Friday night, the one, Kenny was a caretaker, and they beat Dundee United 1-0, and Kenny rung me from dressing room and says, that's from the lads. You know what I mean? And says they went out tonight. And I says, well, why didn't they do it in the last blooming 8 games? I'd still be there. Nah, I'm only kidding. But and then obviously they changed the manager. And then in that period of time, I get an offer to go back into another Scottish club who was struggling in the same division. And I said, no, I can't. I said, because there's no way I want to be going up against Motherwell and trying to put them out of the league, you know, with another team who were down at the bottom struggling. So I said no. And then, as I say, out of the blue, I remember I was coming back from being down in England, and I was just approaching Edinburgh, and I think it was a Saturday afternoon, and I got a phone call. I think it was like, I can't remember where it's from, San Diego. It was Gough. And obviously Gough knew Dave King well. And he says, he's blah, blah, blah. He says, Dave King's gone in. New people have gone in. Would you think of, you know, I went, he says, well, I'll come back to you. Anyway, and I think they did the draw at Cowdenbeath 0-0 or something, and he rung me, and I could hardly hear him, and I'm thinking, have I heard that right? You know, going through tunnels, and I was on the train. Anyway, the next day I got a call, and then went and met John Gilligan, just in Glasgow on my own, and he says, listen, like, you become manager. He says, so Walter, the gaffer's put your name in, John Brown, and obviously Gough. Says, you think you better do it?
No bad referees for you.
I know, and I thought, well, if they're putting my name, I can't say no. You know what I mean? So yeah, again, I thought finances weren't even there. It was nothing, and yeah, but I knew the club, and it was only I rung Kenny. He was absolutely. He came up, went in the training ground, and all me. What I've been in the game now, nearly 42 year, 44 year actually, and that is the lowest I've known a club. The late great Jimmy Bell. I mean, Jimmy was not the happiest go-lucky chaps at the best of times, but he were so low. But the one good thing was, so the players and the fans have lost all connection really, and what had happened at the club for the previous years, you know what I mean. But that was the old regime, you know. There's no way I would have ever gone back if Mike Ashley or any other people had been there. I went back basically because the Gough had said, listen, go in, the gaffer, and plus, you know, it's an opportunity to come manage
It's almost
Rangers.
like the club needs you, Stuart.
Well, yeah, and you know, I thought, but I say the 2 days after I'd been in, I thought, this is the lowest I've ever known. Going down corridor, the canteen people, Thought, right, we need to hit the ground running. And did we hit it running? We drew at home to Livingston 1 each. And then we drew against the mighty Alloa 2-2 on the Tuesday night. And I thought, gosh, you couldn't get off a worse start. You need a win, at home win. I think there were 25,000, 28,000 against Alloa. And we go to Hibs on a Sunday. And we decided to change it up. We go with wing backs, 3 centre halves. Because in the 3 games Rangers had played Hibs up to then, Hibs had won 9-1 on aggregate. I think there was a 4-0 in there, a 3-1 and a 2-0 or something like that. So we thought we had to go a bit more solid, but try to get there. And it worked. I mean, I think McGregor, Wallace crossed and McGregor scored at the back post. You know, the 2 wing backs scored, and then I don't think it was Nicky Clark, but we won 2-0. And that was sort of a bit of a connection back, because the travelling fans, probably the first time the players had gone and applauded the fans and the fans not booed and whatever, you know, because it was been a poor season. And then from that minute, there was a little bit more belief and a bit of connection grown. And I think I had maybe 11 league games up to then. We got beat at Queen's Park 3-0 on the plastic, which wasn't good. But other than that, we had some good results. We beat Hearts, we had 10 men. Big Lee McCulloch got sent off at half-time. Beat them 2-1, who actually skushed the league. They'd won the league by about 20-odd points. And then we get to the playoffs.
That's your worst nightmare, is it not? The playoff scenario.
Before that, I'm looking at it, and I think Motherwell going to Hibs the second game to go, and I think Motherwell got to win that, or they're going to be in the bottom bit. And as it would just seem to be fair as the games are going, it's going to be. But obviously, we've still got a job to do. We've got to get through Queen of the South first and foremost, and then ended up being Hibs. So we and. When I look back at it, the Queen of the South, I think it was a full house at Ibrox, which you would expect. When I went in, I think it was 25,000, 28,000. So what we had to do was try to get the fans back on side, which we managed to do. The players managed to do it. And then we got Hibs. And all week they've been away at, I don't know if it was Marbella, you know, or they're doing all videos of the training camp, and we're playing these games, the pressure games. We win down at Queen of the South 2-1, and we draw at home 1 each, but we're through, and then we get Hibs. And I remember the atmosphere that night was electric, and I think Kenny Miller scored a really good goal. We win 2-0, and we go to Easter Road, and I think they scored at 93rd minute, but we go through 2-1. And that was probably the only time I've ever celebrated it, because I had a lot of my family, my boys were in the way end and that, and you know, it was great to then get through. But then you're obviously facing, and I knew what a good set of players and professionals Motherwell had in the dressing room. You know, anyway, when you look back at it, you go to that game, and it was 15 minutes of football really, because I think it was 38th minute, the score. Lee Irwin, who I'd give his debut to, got through and deflected goal. I think it was only the second time Motherwell had been in our penalty box. 38 minute, and then they get a free kick, and Stephen McManus, ex-Celtic player who I'd brought to Motherwell, scored, and then 3 minutes into the after half time, little Lionel Ainsworth, who I brought up from England from the wilderness, and he scored a 30-yarder in top corner, and I'm looking at him thinking, goodness me. So we've gone from 0-0 in charge of it, and we're 3-0 down. We nick a goal near the end, and obviously then we go tomorrow. We need to score the first goal, and I think it's 0-0 first half in it, and then we need to get the first goal, and we don't do it, and then you know we faltered and we go out of it. But I think them 15 minutes of football sort of I would say evaporated any hope I had of still being at Rangers.
I don't think you have to prove or justify your Rangers credentials to anyone, Stuart, but was those 2 games one of the few in your career where emotionally you could have been conflicted a little bit because of what Motherwell meant to you and what you'd achieved there?
Yeah.
Because obviously you wanted to take Rangers up, but in doing that you'd take them down.
Yeah, and listen, obviously my full focus we're on Rangers.
Of course.
I did know
the impact in Motherwell.
I did know that the people at Motherwell would have been losing their jobs. And you know the lads that served me so well would have been getting released. The people that were working in the canteen or the groundsman, there was going to be a lot of cuts. You know? But I mean, obviously that didn't have an impact on me at the time. But after, when I look back at it, you know, the one thing obviously that come out of it was, you know, Motherwell managed to, you know, a lot of jobs were saved for their point of view. But yeah, it was. But even then, it's strange how football works out, because I had a meeting with Dave King. In fact, I think Rangers had 13 players out of contract, and I said to him, the only one that I would if I was still at the club, would have been Kenny Miller. As it happens, when Mark Warburton goes in, the only person that he does re-sign was Kenny Miller. But when I got offered the job at Rangers, I was working with Gordon Strachan, Scotland, and I come off. I remember getting the offer from Rangers, and I rung him, and he had 4 missed calls, and he rung me. He was on the golf course in where he's got his place, and I think it's Marbella as well, somewhere out there. And he said to me, "I've got 4 missed calls from you. You're going to tell me you've been offered the Rangers job, aren't you?" I went, "How do you know that, Gordon?" He says, "Well, yeah." He says, "Listen, go take it." He says, "We've only got 2 games between now and the end of the season. If things don't work out," I think they're Gibraltar and Northern Ireland. Gibraltar was in the European qualifications. Northern Ireland was a friendly. He says, "Me and Mark can't get through this. Then without you, then we're a bad pair." He says, "But if things don't work out," he says, "then you can come back into the Scotland set," which I thought was an amazing gesture. You know what I mean? I'm leaving Scotland to go work for Rangers, and he said, "If it don't work out, you can come back in." I thought, wow, you know, that's Mark.
Speaks volumes for what you thought of you or how you regard yourself.
Well, and then it's funny because then we're gonna actually play the Republic I think it was the 5th of June. So the Rangers job's not been given up. Obviously, I did a part interview for it afterwards, and there was linked with other players. And then Dave King flew over, and he actually was staying at my hall where Scotland was staying. And I had a 2-hour meeting with him, a really good meeting. I told him what I thought of the club, what it needed, what players would need to stay, what would need to go, and everything. And he was good. And then as days went on, and Rangers weren't appointing a manager, and people sort of pulling out the race, I was actually going from here, and I was climbing the ladder again. You know, when you start getting, because I'm thinking, "Oh, that's it," but they think, "Do you know what?" And then it was a funny story because I heard that Mark Warburton, Mark was he wanted to stay in England apparently. I thought Sheffield Wednesday or Leeds or somebody else, and Sunderland, was it Sunderland? Yeah, Sunderland. It looked as though Dick Advocaat was leaving. So there was some sort of moving parts, and Dick had decided to stay at Sunderland. So whoever's going at Sunderland, it might have been Dyche from Burnley. I can't remember. There was all these moving parts of a jigsaw. If this happened, that had happened, then Mark had go in at, say it was Burnley. Can't remember what team it was. And then it'd open up, I'm in. But anyway, cut long story short, out of the blue, Dick decided to stay at Sunderland, I think it was. And I can remember 2 months later or 6 weeks later, I've come home and Mrs. has said to me, "What about that wee Dick?" I says, "What wee Dick?" He says, "That Dick Advocaat, he's gone and chucked it after 6 weeks. Why didn't he chuck it in the summer? Mark Warburton had took that job, he'd have gone there and you'd have been in." I thought, gosh. But
to be fair, Mark obviously came in.
Yeah, I think that obviously David Weir had a big impact on him.
Yeah.
Listen, you don't know.
They came in, and to be fair, they made the instant impact. But do you still look back on it, Stuart, and think, I was the right man. I could have done the job for Rangers?
No, I look back on it. Apart from obviously the Motherwell games, with a lot of pride, because as I say, when I went in, it was the lowest I've ever known a football club. I think we brought the morale back. I spoke to he's a big mate, well, a big pal of mine. He's not a big pal of mine, but I know him well. At one of the local hostilities, should I say, near Ibrox, who said that, you know, when he was getting no punters in his pub, he got 3 full houses with the games, you know, the end of the season games, and we got a bit of sort of belief back, and you know, obviously the Queen of South game was a sellout, Hibs game was a sellout, Motherwell game was a sellout, but I think we got a little bit of, for that small period, what it was like to be, you know, wanting to support Rangers. And I think the players and the fans had the connection for a little bit, and the environment and the around the place, there was people smiles on their face. I think the environment changed. There was a little bit more, which happens when you get better results naturally. It
was only for a few months, but you feel nobody can ever take that away from you. You were still Rangers manager, and it'll always be special for you.
Yeah, of course it will. Yeah, to walk out and be Rangers. I'm not one that always looks back and says, "Oh, I did this, I was good at that, or I did this, or whatever." You know, what happened, and I'll always be pleased with it. But yeah, nobody, like I say, nobody can ever take that away. But I do remember, funny, on my first day in charge, a couple of things. I said, "Kenny," I says, "What's happening there?" I says, there must be some sprinklers burst. Because we, at Motherwell, we were used to going up to parks and training on parks. We didn't have a training ground. And I says, look, there's about 8 guys out there. They're digging our pitch up. He says, no, that's actually sprinklers and they're groundsmen. You know, to go into Murray Park, it was like in the gym and everything. I've gone into my office first day, I've got my kit on, ready to sort training out, and I get a phone call. And it's the secretary, down at reception. Oh, there's a phone call for you, Stuart. I said, you know, I'm really busy. I'm sorting training out. It's my first day. I've got to have a meeting with the players. I said, I think you'll need to speak to this person. I went, oh, it's maybe one of the directors or whatever, something like this. Hiya, okay. All right. I went, yeah. I can't swear. Do you know what you fucking let yourself in for? And it was a gaffer. And I spoke to Walt for about 15 minutes. And he actually he says, do you know what he's been watching? He says, I've been watching these fucking all season, you know what I mean? And he just honestly just wished me all the best. He says, Mick, listen, you ever need to speak to me. And like I say, I think I spoke to him once or twice, just little things. But I always felt I would be burdening them, and you know, which sounds silly now, right enough. But yeah, that was my first call. I just seen Jimmy Bell's face, and he was like lower than a snake's belly, because he was just, honestly, his club's an absolute shambles. This is that. Ashley's left it this, or he's done that, or whatever, you know, and all this stuff. And then I've got the gaffer ringing me saying, do you know what you let yourself in for? And I thought, do you know what? I went home that night, I said, I don't give a, because this is, I've got whatever time I'm going to write good go at it. I was so proud of you, natural.
You're 60 now, and you've had a great coaching career, and there's so many other roles that we've just not had the opportunity to discuss. But here we are at Preston North End. You're number 2 to Paul Higginbottom, one of the great English clubs. And you look at the names that have been associated with this club over the years: Tom Finney, Bill Shankly, David Moyes, Scott Simon, of course, was manager here before he goes to Rangers, and the rest is history.
Of course.
Is it a great club to be involved in, Stuart?
I've got to say, when me and Paul came out of Sheffield United, we'd done well there, we got promotion, obviously we went to the Premier League, which was a tough gig. And then opportunities to go back in another couple of clubs, never felt it was right. And then you get into the summer and the close season, nothing's coming up. And then 2 games in or a game in, the opportunity to come to Preston. And once we get here, listen, the squad, they're all good, genuine lads. They haven't got the quality Sheffield United had when we took over there, naturally, because they had some top Premier League players in the group. But they're all good sound, good group. But the staff and the people that are working here are top class. The facilities are really good. So yeah, it's good. I think we've like won 4, lost 4, and drew 12 at the minute. You know, so we're gradually getting to where we want to be. The supporters have been fantastic to us both. They're fully behind us, and yeah, it'll be, you know, building blocks as we go along. Obviously, the January transfer window's coming up, and then we look to build on there. But I think any manager, and I think certainly with Preston, I think you look at history recently, they give the managers 2-3 years to have a crack at it. And I think if you want to be successful, I think that's what's got to happen. So yeah, really enjoy my time here, and yeah, hopefully we can bring a bit of success to the club.
Well, it's a brilliant career. Love talking to you about it, Stuart, and I really do hope there's so much more to come for you in football. And thank you very much for your time, Stuart.
Brilliant.
Really appreciate it.
Cheers, thank you.